Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Key elements that showed differences in the data runs and the tapes, and I believe I've provided that to you as well. And then a declaration by Robert Marsh, the Star Township supervisor, a couple of the excerpts. When he said, upon examining the tape at the close of the polls, I could see that President Trump had clearly won the presidential race in Star Township. He said, I believe the numbers were 462 for President Trump, with Joe Biden receiving 161 votes. Normally, when a candidate has such a large lead, it's safe to assume who the winner would be. Early the next morning, my wife received a phone call from a friend asking what happened to Antrim County going blue, meaning Democrat. At 7:36 that morning, I was texting our stats representative, Tristan Cole, to find out if those were the actual results. At the time, Tristan advised me that the numbers were not right, that Antrim County was reporting 462 votes had been credited to Joe Biden, and President Trump had only received 10 votes. So we saw numerous examples of numbers moving, numbers being flipped and switched. As you realize, the Antrim County is where the 6,000 vote glitch occurred. And if you look at the numerous references in the guidelines for elections in the Help America Vote Act, the Federal Election Commission Voting System Standards, and the Federal Information Security Modernization Act, an error rate is permissible for 1 out of 125,000 ballots. And if you look at just what happened in Antrim County, the error rate was 8.3, so it puts it about 750 times the allowable limit. And according to the regulations, that should have disqualified. They went later and changed that from a glitch to a clerical error, which they kind of changed up the reporting on that a little bit.
We are 6 years in. We're 6 years in, and if you really want to know the truth, we're probably 20 years in from the conversations when we talk about election. Remember, it was Congressman Feely out of Florida, a Republican congressman, who decided that he should have a Chinese company make a system. Ask Clinton Curtis. It was a Chinese company, so fully Chinese. Later was convicted of crimes, felonies against the United States on an unrelated environment. But we're talking about going back and building systems and then tying them back to Venezuela. We knew that the Venezuelan elections were largely rigged. We watched it happen. The people sat and watched it happen. Maduro was taken into custody. You had obviously the buy from Smartmatic, where they bought out Sequoia voting systems within a year. You had, within less than a year, with less than months, Eric Coomer was brought in as a chief architect. And if you go a year later, CFIUS was looking underneath the hood of Sequoia voting systems and said, hey, this can't be allowed. This is a threat to our national security. And they were forced to sell. And then if you look at the people that were involved in the management of Sequoia voting systems, along with Eric Coomer, he was right in the middle of it. And you go further down the line from Sequoia to Dominion voting systems, and the person that had never really run nothing but a municipal election came into the United States and said, hey, look, we'll buy up Sequoia with no real infrastructure or even understanding of elections. That was John Polis. And then, of course, we look at what happened in Serbia and where the kind of the lineage of Dominion voting systems came from in Serbia and Canada and here. When you look at all of the information related to this, and if you look at a timeline, and you stack that timeline with events and understandings, and you look at RFPs and RFQs documents related to Dominion voting systems. It's pretty easy. They're not that smart. So evil people, there's not a whole lot of evil, smart people, just decided that they would change the outcome of elections over the last couple decades, which led to a degradation of our judiciary, which led to a degradation of the laws and standards and rights and entitlements that Americans get, and it passed them over to foreigners because you'd want foreigners to have more than Americans. I mean, look at what happened in Europe. The ultimate goal was to cause as much chaos and confusion as possible. And what you just saw are experts. He's an expert. And that expert talked about what happened in Antrim County. And that was largely dismissed by entertainment journalists and lawyers that can't barely use their cell phone, and people that don't get too involved in social media, and decided we're going to affect the trajectory of generations of young people and take away their opportunities while creating as much chaos and as much opportunity for themselves as possible. Now, as we look at this, it becomes pretty obvious. The people that have stood up have taken a beating. These are Americans, and I would equate the Americans that have done this from the lawyers that have stood up. You could talk about the disbarments that have happened, the large judgments against people like Rudy Giuliani. You could talk about those things. Those will be accurate in terms of, is it different than going to war? Standing up for the American spirit, the ethos, and the stealing of our country, is it the same as going to war and lifting a gun? It's going to get there if we're not careful. And yet, as we sit here and talk about what has happened in our country, it becomes very obvious the CIA and really bad actors, good versus evil, has taken hold. The mistrust of the system that we have is in full flight. 85% of our country wants to pass the Save America Act, and yet they won't do it because they don't represent the interests of the American people and what could be the only biggest, glaring, obvious betrayal by those that say that they were elected by the people. 85% of the country wants the Save America Act passed, wants to stop giving entitlements to foreigners, wants to stop illegals from coming across the border and committing crimes, raping and murdering people in our own communities, wants to stop judges that are from foreign lands getting lifetime appointments while walking over the bodies of everyday Americans whose generations have fought, died, and suffered to make sure our country can be one of the greatest countries on earth. They don't want to fix anything. And why would they? They want to debate the ridiculous, and the more ridiculous it gets, the more they want to debate it. Gender fluidity and cutting off penises and grooming our children while saying that's not what's happening. Oh, you're a homophobe. You're a transphobe. And using dog whistles, and we just don't do what is necessary in order to stop it from happening. They walked past experts. They walked past parents. They walked past what we knew to be true by scientists when it came to COVID. Over the last 20 years, it's become obvious that they want to put as many millstones on the chest of the American people as possible, betray them in their offices for a couple bags of shekels, and do as much damage as they possibly can in order to destroy everything that our country represents. And every one of them has the same feeling of justification in their mind. It's not really, this is just me. It's just a little bit of money. It's just a little bit of power. I don't have any control over everything else. And collectively, they're bought and paid for. And they screw the American people, and they push good people to stand up, become whistleblowers. And when they do, like the whistleblower that we have that's with us today, they are ridiculed. They go into hiding. Their children are attacked. Their relationships are ruined. Their family ostracizes them because they don't want to have the risk associated with themselves. Selfishness replaces selflessness, and love becomes conveniently overlooked or justified as, hey, listen, I don't want to get hurt. Our country is run by cowards and they rely on the American people to have a chilling effect, which is why they went after J6ers, on destroying the lives and reputations of good people that have done good things by people that stand up and say, anti-Semite, homophobe, racist, you name it, they say it. It doesn't make it true. It just makes it repeatable. And it makes this the beating stick that they can use in order to bully, intimidate, and destroy all that is good about the good people that continue to fight. I want you to look at this really quick before I bring our guests on. This is 11 states have more voters in their citizen voting age population. 11 states had more voters than their citizen voting age population. 11. You see the one right in the middle? That's Colorado. You see that state just on the other side of it? And you wouldn't have thought that that was the case. You can see Kentucky. You can see Michigan. You can see the states that, frankly, Georgia, that led people like Marjorie Taylor Greene to say, I got to get out. Thomas Massey to get defeated by a guy that's a walking corpse. I think he's like 90 years old. And he beat Thomas Massey, an MIT trained doctor. And here's Todd Blanche being questioned about voter rolls. I think you need to see it. Go ahead and play it.
Over their voter rolls, state officials have pushed back against those moves. They say states dictate how elections are run, not the federal government. Is it time for the DOJ to drop this fight, and will you do it?
Well, we're relying on a statute passed by Congress that allows us, in the right circumstances, to review and get those voter rolls. And so, yes, no, we're not going to stop doing what I think every American should expect us to do, which is make sure that we have elections that are fair. And as that relates to the Department of Justice, that means making sure that there are no constitutional legal violations, even at the state level. So, yes, the President Trump, this administration knows and of course understands that states administer elections, and that will always be the case, but it doesn't mean the federal government should play no role. And so the tension there is, of course, whether we should be playing the role that we're playing, and that's really what we're litigating.
How far are you willing to take this fight? Because you've been ruled against now 22 times. Are you going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, do you anticipate?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We're trying to work it out with states. Of course, yes, absolutely, it's a possibility. Election integrity is something that President Trump ran on, and the American people elected him. It's something that every American should care about. And so the idea that the Department of Justice is trying to investigate issues around elections to make sure they're fair and make sure they're conducted the right way is not something that we should be running away from. That's something we should be running right towards.
I want to finally.
Running the clock. He knows. Todd Blanche knows. He is keenly aware of all the things that we face right now. He's aware. They act stupid. They act like this is the first time they've heard it. I've heard somebody just a few days ago that went and talked to someone at the DOJ and said, I feel like we're right back to square one, because we are. Because they're liars. And Todd Blanche is not a stupid man. It's not his first day on the job. He's been doing this for a long time. The same thing has been said. We have walked past experts and people that can solve the problem and put village idiots in positions of trust and authority. And we want to make sure that no one's allowed to talk bad about the cool kids. We want to make sure that no one's allowed to say anything about the DOJ. No one's allowed to talk about the people that said that they were on our side. I mean, look, Kardashian Patel, he's the head of the FBI. Crime is down 20%, only he had nothing to do with it. It's theater. It's political theater. It's not real. It's not real. The sovereignty of our country is stolen by people on both sides of the aisle. And they don't even care. There is no spirit inside of them that says, you know what? I got to fight because Thomas Jefferson did. I got to fight because Paul Revere ran through the bushes. The British are coming. I got to fight because of those people that fought and died and stood for our nation in its early founding. I gotta fight because Abraham Lincoln died protecting the rights of all Americans. All that should be important, but it's not to these people. It never was. I want to show you this clip of Marie Elvira Salazar. She's a Republican seeking re-election. Play it.
What does the word dignity mean to you? To me, it means not having to live in the shadows. It means being proud to contribute to the economy and be respected for it. That's what 10 million illegal immigrants deserve. Let them work legally and generate over $100 billion in revenue for our treasury. No path to citizenship, no right to vote in our elections, and no access to federal programs. It's called the Dignity Act, where they can work and live without fear. It's the right thing to do, it's the Christian thing to do, it's the American thing to do. So let's do it.
So let me walk through some stuff for you, just so we can understand. The Dignity Act, the Affordable Care Act. They can say what they want and do what they want with impunity. And the people that suffer are the ones that bit into the American ideal, bit into the idea that we should fight for our own sovereignty. Those are the people that pay the price. And I want to put this is President Trump posting about her getting reelected. Congresswoman Marie Elvira Salazar is doing a truly fantastic job representing the wonderful people of Florida's 27th Congressional District. A former news anchor and political reporter, Marie knows the wisdom and courage required to confront the corrupt fake news, which seeks to divide and destroy our great country. In Congress, Marie is working hard to grow our economy, cut taxes and regulations, promote Made in the USA, unleash American energy dominance, keep the border secure, stop migrant crime, support our brave military veterans, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Marie Salazar is my complete and total endorsement for re-election. Election day is Tuesday, August 18th. Get out and vote for Maria. She will never let you down. Okay. I don't have to agree with everything that President Trump said. I don't agree with half of our congressmen on the Republican side. I agree less with people on the evil right. But you never stand on the side of the devil, ever, not even for a minute. So what do you think that Marie Elvira Salazar, what do you think her conservative review score is? Well, if she went to school, she wouldn't graduate. She got an F on Liberty score from Conservative Review. That's not MAGA. Just another pretty face that's willing to stuff her pockets with entitlements. Do I think she's corrupt? I don't know. I don't know if she is. I know the betrayal of people like me, people like the person we're going to have on right now. Right now. It's going to come on. Regina Miller, who is a whistleblower for the last 6 years. She has literally had to look over every shoulder. How do I know that? Because I look over my shoulder everywhere I go. She's a whistleblower in the 2020 election fraud. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She worked at the Delaware County, Pennsylvania government office. She observed Jim Savage, the voting machine warehouse supervisor, solely responsible for providing the 2020 election results with 30 precincts data missing. A right to know request was submitted, and Regina observed Savage and others conspiring to destroy and remove the evidence. She is speaking out publicly today for one of the first times that she's done this. That information was used by other people. Other people brought it forward and carried the torch. And Regina, in this 13th hour of looking what's happened to our country, in almost that desperation of how can they not see it? How can all the evidence be so overwhelming, and yet we're still sitting here talking about it? We're going to start, before we go any further, with a clip. I'm going to start with an audio clip of Howard Lazarus, who was the executive director of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Now, this was recorded. This was bravely recorded by Regina herself. And let me just tell you a little bit about him. Actually, no, I'm going to play the clip first. Then I'll tell you about him as I bring Regina on. Go ahead and play it.
Yeah, we need to make sure that there is a quality person assigned to support elections, but we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist and most likely won't. Part of our problem in the county is that the disjointed nature of our IT structure has led to our failure to update equipment, not having a depth of resources, which led to, among other things, the intrusion into the system and the fact that we relied on really one person to download the results last November. I think having the support model where the person is dedicated to elections but still has a reporting chain through the CIO is the best way to go and to prevent those problems again.
Without anything left to talk about related to this, I want to welcome Regina to the show. Regina, welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you give everyone just a kind of an update on what caused you to start recording? What, you came in, you went to work for them during the election. Just give everybody a little bit of your background.
I was working for the election right before the election. They brought me in to come in and help with the election. They needed help. And I would say that most of the people that work for the county are hired through a temp agency.
What?
It's through a temp agency. So they're only the key people that actually work for the county and run the elections. And then everyone else is brought in as a temp. So, and the temp job can last anywhere from, for the period of the election, it can last for years, but they're not permanent employees of the county. So they can easily take them in and take them out and put you in one place and then move you to another place. So I was brought in as a temp and I was moved around all throughout the Bureau of Elections. I was moved to different areas. There was one occasion where after the election, a judge of election man did not return the bag of ballots to the county at the time when they're supposed to return them to the county. He took them home. He said he left them in his trunk. We found out about it. And the director who was in charge of the elections said, get a sheriff and go with the sheriff. He'll escort you to this man's home and and please collect the bags of ballots. So I was escorted by a deputy sheriff to go collect the ballots more than 24 hours after the election. So things like this kept popping up. So I saw that this was not right and there was something wrong and it was very, very messy all over the place. Nobody knew what they were doing. There were lots of questions and I was concerned. So I sought out someone to talk to, an attorney, someone to find and talk to them about it and say, look, this is what I have witnessed. This is what I'm experiencing. This isn't correct. It's not even honest. Who can I talk to? So I was put in touch. An article was quietly written about what I witnessed without mentioning my name. Some people like Leah,
As soon as that happened, did somebody inside the government come to you and say, hey, is this you?
No one ever came to me. No one. No, but there were people that started looking for me to see who is this whistleblower mentioned in this article that was published. And they sought me out and put me in touch with other people. So.
Okay, so let's go further down. Let's kind of get into the meat of this. What were the crimes? Do you feel like the crimes were committed, that they were pretty easy and glaringly obvious for anyone that would be standing in front of it?
Absolutely, very, very, very obvious because it was so messy. A lot of chaos was caused on purpose to cause confusion. People.
Okay, so let's stop you. Let me stop you there because people would say, "Oh, is that your opinion that chaos was caused on purpose?" Was it because it was the same people causing the chaos, or was it because you could see their intentions by how they either operated or walked or talked or how they talked to the people? What led you to think that it was obvious chaos?
I would say that, well, the first thing was a judge of election not returning the ballot bags to where the drop off is a major problem. There's a law that says you have to have it it has to be back in the county by a certain amount of time. And when you have ballot bags missing with people's votes in them, those people are being robbed of having their vote heard. So that's clearly a problem.
Where did the ballots go?
Where did they go?
You said
They
they're missing, so where are they?
all of the judges of election, all of the people that work, the ballot bags, everything is supposed to be returned to the county by a certain time before the end of the evening. They have to be returned to the county. Eventually, they go to a different location for counting, which is what happens. But at the time for this particular incident, the ballot bags, I had to wait till the next day because that's when we found out, and then track down this man, have him sign an affidavit saying that he had the ballots, that he did not return them in time, and they're being returned and handed over to me. So I created a chain of custody for the ballots. The sheriff that was with me, that escorted me, is not allowed to touch anything. So he just is there to escort me, to help me collect the bags of ballots, and then we took them down to the counting center and dropped them off there. So, but when things like that happen, it's clearly a problem. The other thing that happened and this is before I ever got in touch with anybody, was the following day, there were bags and bags all over the place, piled up high in a room and then in the hallway of the county, of the ballots of the unused ballots, used ballots, machine tapes, V drives. There was a list that went out that there were a certain number of V drives that were written, and everybody panicked and said, well, we need to find these V drives. Start looking for the V drives. So throughout the county, people were looking for the V drives. The people that worked the polls were contacted. The people that were in the county were contacted. At the voting machine warehouse, they were contacted saying, do you have any V drives? The V drives, all the machines were checked for V drives. Some were found, some were never found. The ones that were never found were recreated, and you can't do that. So it was very obvious that it was a circus.
Yeah, so there's so many questions related to this that I have. So you took that information, people found you. Did they just find you, or did you find them and then connect you?
They found me.
Okay.
There was an article that was published, and two particular people went looking for me, and they found me. They asked, can they meet me? And I met up with them. Yes.
Okay. And let's walk through the chronological order. Like, what you first got involved, they moved you around, you had things that were missing, you started recording them. Who are the main characters in this cartel?
The main characters, well, Jim Savage, who runs the voting machine warehouse, he's in charge of all of the machines. He makes sure that the machines come back to the voting machine warehouse. So he had people that at the time when the V drives were missing, they were on the phone with him saying, are there any V drives in the machines, left in the cages? They're called cages, where they put everything in the cages, the printer, the machines, everything that you need to vote. So he had people in the voting machine warehouse look. There were several people that were in the county that work in the main area where the courts are that were there. The man that was in charge of the election, Jim Allen, was part of the cover up and trying to hide this is what was really going on. So
why? What benefit? Do you think they financially benefited? I mean, and I'm saying this because if you were sitting in a court, you were sitting on the chair, they're going to ask you questions. And so I'm being the antagonist on purpose, understanding that the elections across the entire country are fraudulent. But what would be their motive for doing these things? Do you think it was personal gain? Do you think they hated President Trump? Did they hate other Republicans? Are they closet, demons? Help me.
I can't tell you what his personal reasons are. I don't know. It's a conversation I never had with him, but clearly he was brought in to clean up this mess, the chaos that was created, and hide what was going on. So when you have temps come in, and it could be anybody. We had people coming over saying, "Oh, I have nothing to do. Do you need help?" And someone would say, "Sure, we need help," and empty out the bags that have all of the voting paperwork in it and everything, the books, the ballots, everything, the machine tapes, have them empty it out. And okay, take all the machine tapes and put them here, and put the unused ballots here, and create this long table in the hallway where anybody that comes into the county could walk back there and mess with anything. Put the V drives here. And they should not have been sorting things like that. And then 20 minutes later, someone comes over and says, "Oh no, you're doing it all wrong. Clean this up." They have to stay with each of the areas. It didn't make any sense that it was so unorganized. It was such a big election. How can you mess this up? How can it be so unorganized? It should have been very clear as to who had what job, and and all these years as to who does what, who takes the extra ballots. The extra ballots have to end up back at the voting machine warehouse, and they have to get stored. Who the used ballots have to end up back there, the V drives, like, whose job is that? Why is that not figured out already after all these years? It's such a big election and they've been planning and planning it. How is it so screwed up?
So I mean, I want to walk through this, but I'm going to put some stuff up here, maybe just as some information. Let me just go through the documentation. There was an election audit and a FOIA of the 2020 presidential election in Delaware County. Okay. Based on this information document, go ahead and put this image up. Put the image up. Put us next to it. 3A.
I didn't hear you.
I'm waiting for them to put it up.
Okay.
Go ahead and put it up, guys. Here we go. So based on this, there were voter and ballot count inconsistencies, right? Conflicts in each one of the jurisdictions. By the way, what election machines were they using?
What election issues?
What election machines? What machines were they using in the election?
Oh, Hart Intercivic is what was used.
Okay, all right. So you had precincts that showed election day votes or provisional ballots are explicitly noted as being off by various counts. Okay. You had math discrepancies existing between the report totals and where the report's results state 357 votes were cast, but the tally report shows 188. The metrics across dates were the comparison of the ballot cast sheets from November 6, 2020 to the unofficial results on November 16, 2020 revealed shifting counts in numerous precincts. How do you account for all of this?
Well, the night of the election, I was working in the voting machine warehouse as one of the people who was on the phones for the judges of election. So when there are issues at the county, they would call the voting machine warehouse and talk to the people, whoever was answering the phones. There were 12 people answering the phones. And then you figure out, what is the issue with your machine? Is it not printing? Is it not accepting the ballot? Does, someone says they maybe voted already and they didn't vote, things like that. There were issues that would pop up. So they would call the voting machine warehouse and we would figure out what the problem was. Well, at the end of the night, at one period of the night of that election, every single machine went down at the exact same time. So the machines went down, or they couldn't shut them off. They couldn't print the tape, the machine tapes. So this caused a problem with the return sheets. So the instructions were, we had an executive from Hart Intercivic doing the call center with us. And he said, just tell them to shut the machines down. Don't worry about the machine tapes. Don't worry about calculating how many people voted and didn't vote. Just shut everything down, put it in the bag. We'll figure it out later.
Figure it out later.
Yes.
The most important thing in the history of our country, and they'll figure it out later.
They did. They
Okay,
did.
take this down for a minute. I want to kind of go through some stuff here. Everything went wrong that could go wrong. Is that correct?
Everything. Yep. And we
Mm.
were instructed at the time on the calls, doing the call center, instructed, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Shut the machines off. Everybody was giving the exact same instructions. We were told multiple times in answering the phones because they were ringing off the hooks. Stop, don't answer your phone. We need to have a little powwow and figure out what to do or what to say. If this problem pops up, then you need to do X, Y, Z. So very, very unorganized. And it was amazing they were able to pull this off.
Now, you were there in the warehouse and things just started disappearing. Tell me, disappearing meaning that there was ballots, tapes, memory cards, just all the evidence just disappeared. This is Jim Savage when he was in the warehouse.
Oh no, he didn't make it disappear. He didn't have it disappear. That was for the FOIA. So the FOIA, there was somebody sent in a FOIA request. And the concern with the FOIA request was that they were requesting all of the information from the election. They were requesting that the front and the back of the return sheets. The problem is that there were many, many return sheets that were never completed. The machine tapes were not attached to the return sheets. The V drives were missing. There were people that wrote negative comments on the back. There were people that the judges of election did not want to sign the return sheets because they didn't want to get in trouble because it wasn't completed correctly, and they knew that. So why do you think
there was so many breakdowns? I mean, not just in Pennsylvania, but breakdowns across the entire country, where, I mean, we're talking about the unofficial results on November 6th, which is 3 days after the election. And then another 10 days passes by and they're like, okay, I think we got to figure it out. And it wasn't just in Pennsylvania, it was all across the country.
I don't know that answer. I can't answer that. I just know what happened, what I experienced in the county, in Delaware County. And I know that it was a big circus. I know it was organized chaos and it was done on purpose. My experience and my understanding is, how can you screw this up so bad? How can everything go wrong? That it was purposely done. So, and then all of the machines going down at the exact same time. How does that happen? I can see one or two machines going down, but all of the machines go down.
Well, I think we can talk about that. You know, Delaware County had a cyber attack that caused an outage. They paid $25,000 for a ransomware attack. I believe that was in 2021. Or 2020, excuse me. So you have this happened in September of 2020, where they paid $25,000 in order to get back access to their system, right?
Correct.
And if you look at this, it becomes really difficult not to think to yourself, well, okay, that makes sense. It happened once, but then it happened again. Because that outage caused, now I do believe this happened in 2026. Put the other one up if you would. So Delaware County has confirmed its week-long government system communication outage was a result of a cyber attack. That was July 18th of 2026. Now, I want to look at this for a second. So this other one was in January that talked about that this was in September, right? September of 2020, September 10th of 2020. And it was based on a phishing attack. Then you go to the one in Delaware County again in 2026, and you have a cyber attack on June 26th.
How could it happen twice? They didn't fix it the first time. I don't know how it happened once, let alone twice.
And this is one of the most consequential elections in the history of our country.
Look at the timing.
It's the same, but I don't believe in coincidences.
I don't either.
So this is where I get into Regina, what did you see that was so bad that they did? And why 6 years later are you finally coming to the dance and talking about this? And what do you hope to get from it? What do you hope that comes out of this?
Well, to answer your first question, what did I see that was so bad was that they were having all these problems and with losing the V drives, with not having the machine tapes and turning off the machines at the end of the election, and they knew they needed to have the machine tapes print out the votes and all of that. And they did nothing to fix it. They did nothing. All they did was cover it up and tell one more lie after another after another. That's all they did. And then when it came time for what really was the proof of the pudding, when that they were not being honest, was when it came time for the FOIA request. And there are recordings of two people that are judges of election. One is for the Democrat and one is for the Republican side, that also helped in the voting machine warehouse. And when they are instructed, this is how we have to do the FOIA request. And there's a recording that I made of them saying, well, we don't want to print what is on the back of the return sheets because it's negative. It doesn't look good for the county, so we don't want to print it. So when things like that happen, they're clearly not being honest. It affects everybody and everything. And it's not just it affects the county, it affects the state of Pennsylvania in the end. And then that obviously affects the whole entire country. And that you have this happening throughout the country in multiple states. There's clearly, this is not a coincidence that this is going on. Oh, and then the other thing was that at one point there were some judges that were saying that everybody, the different counties, because we're next to Berks County, Lancaster County, we have Delaware County, Montgomery County, Chester County, so all very, very close to each other. They were all paying attention to what was going on in Delaware County, because Delaware County was the last one county to put the numbers into the state of Pennsylvania and say, this is what our election results are. And they continue to follow Delaware County. So they were copying off of each other as to what was going on.
The further you get into this, the more you look at it and go, okay, why would they be so brazen? Why would they do as much as they did in order to stop getting to the bottom, right? Getting to the bottom of the problem. I mean, you're talking about the vote of the American people. Do you think that they just didn't care? That just doesn't, I mean, a degraded society affects everyone. And yet they're going along to get along with what is destroying everything about our communities and our country. Why? Why would an American, why would anybody do that? Do you think they're just afraid and they just want to be a part of the cool kids club? Is this like some sort of like Stockholm syndrome back in high school that they just carried throughout their entire life? It's just it's crazy to me.
It is crazy. I don't know why one individual does anything. You can only account for what you do. You have an obligation to this country. You have an obligation to yourself. I'm more afraid of we're judged by what we do and what we don't do by God. So I'm more afraid of, hey, if I never said anything and never tried to correct what was going on, I'm more afraid of God than I am of anybody in the county or anything that anybody can say or do. This is for, the salvation of our country. And these people are committing these crimes. They're true crimes, and nothing has been said. They knew the attorney who was for the county at one point, and I witnessed this, say that he gave out his business card. This is my phone number to certain people who had high positions in this election, the 2020 election. And he said, I know that this will eventually come out at one point, and when it does, here's my business card, and you are to call me. So that gave them the cockiness, the coverage of, oh, I'm not going to worry because I have the backing of the county, and the main attorney for the county is going to protect me. So I think that made it easier for them to do these acts.
Man, I just the more I get into it and the more I start reading, I was just reading some of the stuff related to the information you have. So let me play a couple of these this cut. This is Jim Savage in inside of the warehouse. Let's go ahead and play it. Cut 4.
I was the vice chair of the Democratic Party. So, and Jack, I was like Jack's progressive shield. He held me up. Hey,
That's nice. He was your buffer?
I was his buffer.
Oh, you were his buffer. Yeah. To the district attorney?
Mm-hmm. They owed me.
He was, why did they owe you? Because you're good to them.
Well, you know, before I did this, I did elections from the political side.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that. So you've done elections before.
I was, not this way.
Not this way. What do you think he meant by that?
Not on this end. He wasn't in the past. He's helped in other ways. He was not in charge of running the voting machine warehouse.
Was he just running ballots? Muling fake ballots? What are we talking about here?
well, in this position that he currently was in for 2020, he was in charge of all of the voting equipment and getting it out to each of the polling locations and making sure each of the positions were full, which, by the way, that reminds me, there were not all of the positions for a voting location were full. Sometimes there were only maybe 1 or 2 people at a voting location. Not everything was full. And you have to have someone for each of the different positions. And what they ended up doing is they literally would pull people off of the street and say, hey, would you like to work the polls for the day? I'll give you $60 or whatever the amount is for you to stay here and work the polls all day long without any experience, without any due diligence on who these people are. And they had people pulled off of the streets just to fill the positions that you need for a voting machine location.
I don't even.
I don't know how it happened, but I got exposed to all these different angles of how this whole entire thing was done.
In 6 years' time, you've seen information to come out of multiple states, right? Nevada. Yes. I mean, you haven't put yourself in a vacuum and said it's just Delaware County. Do you think that we could be possibly, and I say this, I have my own opinion, right? Do you think we could be guilty of confirmation bias?
Absolutely.
We could be. In other words, we think we see something we don't see.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I want to be clear. Everybody knows, most people should know what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
And when you see something going in the wrong direction, it should be very clear, hey, there's something, this isn't working. There's an issue at this polling location, and fix it. But it was never fixed. These issues were never, ever fixed. There was no attempt in fixing these issues. So it just doesn't make sense. Unless you wanted to keep going south and things not to work out.
Do you think that if you're in leadership, and this is my opinion, obviously just a question, I'm not giving you my opinion on this, but do you think that there's a concerted effort to maybe take away, dilute, make decisions on behalf of the American people that doesn't represent the people's interests? I mean, do you see that happening, not just in one state, but all states? Can you feel it? I mean, you I don't know where you live now. I'm not going to ask you that question, but even where you live, do you see that there are just things that that they're pressing down on you that no matter where you look in society, nobody agrees with?
Today's society and this generation are brainwashed into thinking this is normal. This is okay. That we have these illegal immigrants coming in,
Cutting
and
off penises
voting.
and hurting children.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not normal. It's not how this country was formed. So
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Jim Savage, because he has a history. There's an article that kind of sums this all up. He was a labor union roots, 23 years in the Philadelphia Energy Solutions, and former 9-year president of the local chapter for the USW. He was elected as a Bernie Sanders delegate, and he successfully pushed Hillary Clinton and the Democrat platform to the left. And he's endorsed Clinton as a lifelong labor supporter, and is actively working to persuade the 800 members of the local union to vote for her. This article is fascinating. This is the guy that held all the cards in an election in Delaware County.
he did one of the most important elections, and he was running it.
Do you think the elections are corrupt at every level, or just against President Trump?
I think I think definitely there's so much hatred for President Trump that it doesn't even matter. People hate him. So they don't care whether he's right or wrong. They hate him so much they're gonna, do things against him. But I think that elections are corrupt. I think it can sometimes be a combination of both sides, that it is corrupt and this happens. Because they clearly showed that in Delaware County, because there were Republicans that were, Tom Gallagher, who is a Republican, represented the Republican side. Ziggy, I forget his last name, represented the Democrat side. They worked together and they covered all of this up. They did the FOIA. They didn't present all legally what is to legally be presented. They didn't give it to the person that requested that FOIA request. They didn't hand over all of the information. And there one's a Republican, one's a Democrat. So I think it's at different levels.
It's a uniparty.
Yes.
It's basically time and money. You got shekels, and you can give up a little bit of power to somebody, and then get a little bit of that power and a little bit of that money. Doesn't matter what it is, you'd sell it for it.
Yes.
I want to play something else for you, because I think this is another clip that you actually were able to get, and this is a clip of them destroying election material. Right? Everything in an election is election material. They didn't even try to explain this away, by the way. I remember this came out in 2021. Nobody tried to explain it away. Go ahead and play it.
Right. What we did.
Tom, why do you have to rip it up? Makes you feel better?
Yeah. There's just so many copies. I don't want anybody to pick it up and take the stuff away.
Oh.
We're gonna have a little amplifier going.
And that was 4 prizes.
Okay, you said, why are you ripping it up? And he says, we don't want anybody to think that we're ripping up something that's, a part of the election. But that's what they were doing. Those were polling tapes, correct?
They were the machine tapes from the 2020 election that they were ripping up. And they didn't match up to the return sheets.
So they falsified, got in the system, and changed the records to match whatever records they had. And then they destroyed the evidence of the real election results.
Correct. And they had at the time, so when the FOIA request came in and everything like that after the election, there were return sheets that were never completed. So a letter went out to the judges of election, to a certain amount of people. I forget the exact amount at the moment, but a letter went out to the judges of election that said, you have to come into the voting machine warehouse and finish filling out your return sheet. And they were petrified as to they're going to get in trouble because the return sheet was never properly filled out and finished. So not everybody came in, but a lot of them did come back into the voting machine warehouse after the election and wrote whatever it is they wrote. They were told what to write and filled out their return sheets. So those aren't even accurate.
Okay. Let's look at this for a minute. This is Delaware County 2020 general election data. Put it up. So this is, and I just, again, we go through and we look at the percentages, 66 to 33% in favor of Joe Biden for president. Attorney General, 64 to 32% for Josh Shapiro. And you look at the Nina Ahmed, 61 to 33% on the Democrat over the Republican. If you go down lower, Joe Torsella is 62 to 34%. So you literally have the Republicans losing every race.
They do.
At a 2/3 vote.
How does that happen?
Well, let's go back up to the top for a minute. I want to show you something, which is important. So the story that they tell is that you look at election day, Josh Shapiro is losing to the Republican Attorney General. If you look at the election day, you look at the President Trump is beating Joe Biden. And then you look at the by mail-in voting, and 83% of the mail-in ballots are for Joe Biden. And 79% or 80% is for Josh Shapiro. And 76% of the mail-in ballots is for Nina Ahmed. And you go down, it gets even worse. And they said, they tried to convince us by statistical anomalies that are just not true. And that is that more Democrats put in their mail-in ballots than Republicans, because personality-wise, that's just how. Do you believe that, Regina?
I know. I think it's crazy. The whole thing is crazy. I do know that there were a lot of Republicans that were upset that were coming in and saying, I'm going to vote in person and make sure my vote counts. So it did seem that there were more Republicans voting in person than in the mail-in ballots.
But by a rate of 4 to 1?
It's crazy. The numbers are crazy.
Does that even seem feasible?
No.
And everything is 60-30, 70-30, 70-40. Everything.
Well, again, Delaware County was the last county in Pennsylvania to submit their numbers. And they were late in submitting it. And they got in trouble by the state because the state contacted them and said, you haven't submitted your election results yet. Why have you not submitted your election results? And they kept putting it off and putting it off. And I think personally, my opinion is that it was to figure out what do we have to do to go over the finish line and make sure that all the Democrats win these spots.
Okay, so let me just tell you. Let me give you the margin of error, right? In 2020, or the margin of elections in Pennsylvania. So, in 2020, let's see if I can get there. In 2020 in Pennsylvania, Biden won. What was the margin? Let's see here. By 100,000 votes. Ish. 80,000 votes. Right? 80, 90,000 votes. Let's just say. And if you look here, the margin of error for President Trump over Joe Biden is 90,000 votes. Right?
Right.
So Delaware County was the last to put their information in.
Correct.
President Trump loses by, let's say, 90,000 ballots. Let me see what the total was. Joe Biden, Trump. Just go to president real quick. Yeah. So roughly, he had 3,458,000 votes. President Trump had 3,377,000 votes. So it's roughly 80,000 votes. Right? And you have 90,000 right here. So are you telling me that Delaware County, this isn't legitimate?
Not in my opinion, this can't be legitimate. The numbers are not,
And you were there.
not true.
Over the last 6 years, has anybody in Congress come to talk to you?
No,
Has any
No one.
investigator come in to talk to you?
no,
Has the FBI come to talk to you?
never,
Has the DOJ come to talk to you?
no.
Has anyone inside the government at any level come to talk to you? I mean, these are serious allegations that you have. You saw these with your own eyes. You had video confirmation of these things. Did anyone in any capacity having to do with law enforcement or to look under the rug of the crimes that were committed, the things that you saw with your own eyes, did anyone come to talk to you?
I had no. I had safety issues where certain things were happening around my family. I was called into court for a personal family issue, and I was the only one in the whole entire county that was called in to be there in person because they were still under the COVID rules. They just needed to know. All they wanted to know, this is all the judge asked, is where are you living? Where are you going? What are you doing? That was it. They just needed to know where I was. There were safety issues at my home where people showed up, where there was a young woman who nearly died she appeared collapsed and unconscious at my front door. And when we called 911 for this particular incident, our house was swarmed with ambulance, with police, swarmed. They knew who I was. They knew that I was a whistleblower from Delaware County, and in no time they were at my house. And when I wanted to know more information as to who this woman was that showed up at my front door, collapsed, unconscious, the files were completely sealed, immediately sealed.
Okay.
So things have happened along in the past 6 years. There have been serious safety issues with my family, with my children and my family, where I have been concerned about my safety. But to answer your question, no one officially has come to me and said, what is this, the evidence that you have, and asked for it.
Yeah. So nobody came to talk to you. I mean, you're
Correct.
talking about the stealing of elections.
Correct.
And behavior that would lead anyone to believe that a crime was committed.
But the county didn't even verify that my information was accurate. They put out a false statement saying we did a full investigation and we found these videos to not be real. We found the paper evidence to not be real.
So hold on a second. Did they come and talk to you?
They did not come and talk to me. No.
So hold on a second. Let me get this straight. You came forward and you had video. You watched them destroy evidence. You have a guy that is a shill for Clinton that had bullied people, because that's what people do in Pennsylvania that are a part of the union. That's my opinion, by the way. And things disappeared. V-drives, everything disappeared. Things were, I mean, it was just terrible. It's chaos. Machine goes down. Everything that happened with Dominion, they're both connected. And everything else, all that stuff happens all at the same time. And no one came to talk to you, but they told you that you were bunk.
They told me that they didn't tell me. They put out a statement to the county.
Yeah.
That the evidence that I had provided was not real, that it was fabricated.
Don't worry about it. Trump will never win. I made effing sure. But it reminds me so much of this guy, Eric Coomer. Everything was what you just said. It was fabricated. Right? Did you just say it? It was fabricated?
They said it was fabricated. They said the county said it was fabricated.
That sounds so familiar. It sounds like, it does sound like Eric Coomer. It sounds like Dominion Voting Systems director of strategy and security that was the chief architect of Sequoia voting system. It sounds very familiar to what
It's
we've
not
been
a
hearing in other
coincidence.
states. No, it's not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence at all. I want to play this for you because I don't know if are you familiar with Sheriff Darleaf?
Very little.
Okay. Well, this is not just Pennsylvania. I mean, you know that, right? This is happening in every state. And, more and more people are trying to believe in a system that is unbelievable. It's incredible. And Darleaf put out a press release today. You'll be one of the first people to hear it. I want people to see it. This is Sheriff Darleaf out of Michigan. He's the one that got access to a bunch of information to look into and underneath the hood. Stephanie Lambert. Last night I was on a Spaces and they wanted to attack Stephanie Lambert and say she's not a good attorney. She's a very good attorney. And he put out this press release. And so I want to get your thoughts on this, Regina. So I want to play this really quick. Let's go and play it.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Berry County, Michigan. I'm Sheriff Darleaf. An employee of the Michigan Secretary of State's office reported to me that non-citizens are automatically registered to vote when they change their address. The confidential informant provided evidence that the customer and automotive record system is programmed to congratulate and inform non-citizens that they are registered to vote. When the confidential informant provided proof to her supervisor that non-citizens are automatically registered to vote, the supervisor stated that the county clerk would identify the non-citizenship status. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, this is not true. The county clerk has given access to the qualified voter roll after the Secretary of State registers a person to vote. The qualified voter roll does not designate a citizenship status. Once a person is registered to vote, they have the ability to receive a mail-in ballot or vote at the poll with their ID card. The polls do not verify citizenship status. My office has referred this matter for investigation to the United States Department of Justice of conspiracy to violate 18 U.S.C. 611 and place non-citizens on the qualified voter roll and in the jury pool. Additionally, I am asking the Michigan legislature to use its resources to remedy the illegal voter registration and placement in the jury pool immediately. My office encourages witnesses with additional evidence of non-citizens receiving automatic voter registration to report this evidence to my office or to your local sheriff. You know this is wrong. It's time to act. Have a good day.
That's interesting. It reminds me of Delaware County in 2020, because after the election, there was a question. Well, it was questioned multiple times as to these people that voted in Delaware County. Are you a citizen or are you a legal immigrant? And I was one of the 4 people that had to go through the list of people that voted and see whether they really were legal immigrants or whether they were citizens and had the right to vote. So this is happening not just in Delaware County.
It's happening everywhere.
Everywhere, yes.
So what you're saying is that we are being overtaken by village idiots, retards, betrayers, and illegals.
Unfortunately, very sad for this country, but yes, we are being overtaken by illegal immigrants and criminals.
Regina, have you taken all of your information, filled out an affidavit, and had it sent to the FBI and the DOJ?
I have handed everything over to the FBI and the DOJ. They have all my information.
How long ago did that happen?
It happened, I would say maybe almost immediately. Everything was collected. And I have Stephanie as Lambert as my attorney and Tom Carroll. So everything was handed to them and preserved. There was a chain of custody. I went to them, handed everything over to them, and I know for a fact that everything has been handed over to the Department of Justice and the FBI. And multiple times, I have to say, Stephanie has asked multiple times, are you comfortable with this being handed over? Are you okay? She has checked with me over and over and over the last 6 years And I said, yes. She said, do you want to continue the fight? I've always said, absolutely continue the fight. So.
Well, I want to be the first one to say thank you for you coming forward as a whistleblower. Please continue to watch your back and look over every shoulder, because these are really, really evil people. What do you want the people to know? I mean, I'll give you the floor and let you have the final word related to this, but what do you want the people to know related to what happened in Pennsylvania and what to look for in 2026?
I would like the voting to be corrected, to be honest, for these criminals, I'm calling them criminals, that have committed this obvious fraud, to be prosecuted, for something to be done with my evidence. I have submitted so much evidence to the Department of Justice and to the FBI, and nothing, as far as I know, I've never been contacted and nothing has happened with that evidence. So I would like for this not to be in vain. I would like something to be done with that evidence and for the elections to be honest. But I think that's something that's going to take time, and I think it's very difficult. I don't know
more than 6 years and more than kind of having to regurgitate things over and over and over again. Do you think that maybe they should sit down and get to the bottom of it?
They should. So in November 13th of 2025, I had the opportunity of meeting Pete Hegseth at a dinner in Harrisburg. And we were introduced to each other, and he asked about my election material. And Pete said, has everything been handed over to Trump's team? Is he aware of everything? He said he would, if not, he would take all of the evidence and he would do something with it and make sure that Trump got it. So
do you believe that President Trump has all the information, or do you believe somebody in his staff has held back that information? Because Hegseth is a good man.
I would like to believe what Hegseth said, that he would make sure that Trump saw it and that he hasn't. So he did say, send it, whatever you're comfortable with, send it over. I said, you can have it all. Send it over, and he would make sure that something was done with that evidence. So I would like to believe that he would make sure something is done with the evidence.
Yeah, me too. I would like to believe. So it's really good saying. I would like to believe. Hopium.
Yes.
Regina, thank you for the work that you do and continue to do. I would just recommend that you reach out to the FBI, reach out to the DOJ. I'm sure that Stephanie is doing some of those things for you. But be relentless. Be as relentless as you've been over the last 6 years. And now's the time to get at the tip of the spear and make sure that they feel it, that people can see it. So continue to do these interviews. I'm going to make some recommendations that you do more of these, and some other people that will be able to handle those things with you as well.
Thank you for having me. God bless you, and God bless America.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's as I sat here listening, and you can tell that I've gotten to that place now where I'm not really surprised. And I remember this back in 2021. I covered this in 2021. Now, I didn't cover Regina. She wasn't out and about and talking about this. But I think she's finally to that point where she's like, look, I gave you guys 6 years to do the right thing. You didn't. Now I've got to go out and talk about it. So she recorded all these videos. And there's many more videos than the ones that we played for you. Those were just small sections of the actual videos. But that leads me down the path of why. And I'm now into motive mode. So in order for 2020 to happen, they had to be able to create an environment where they made educated people look as if they were the SMEs, the subject matter expert when it comes to some of the things related to COVID. Trust the science. They had an entire group of narratives that they used, dog whistles. They use those dog whistles all the way through 2021, 2022, 2023. Wear a mask, stand 6 feet apart. Make sure you take the vaccine. It's going to keep you from getting COVID. And then after you took it, they're like, just kidding. It's not going to do that to you. But it is going to change the genome, and it's going to create turbo cancers and some of the other problems we saw manifest themselves inside of our communities in our country. And we killed grandma, and then we killed grandpa, and then we killed our brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. And we watched as families were just devastated and destroyed by the millions. And now we're dealing with novel cancers, and we're dealing with novel problems related to respiratory diseases and blood diseases. And we're afraid to ask the conversation, did you get the vaccine? Blood banks now are divided by vaccinated blood, unvaccinated blood. And what they're doing is they're melding and mixing those in and hoping that somewhere along the line they're able to get to density. And then you have shedding of the vaccine that they put in people, and is that going to affect people? And you see them talking about putting drugs and things into our food supply. And so you have people like me that are running around going, yeah, I don't want that either. I don't want to be on team evil. I want natural food. So even like gummy bears and candies, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I can't take the chance. Bottled water. I'm looking at bottled water going, well, that's an easy way to get a bunch of people to drink stuff that's not what you should be drinking. And how would you even know? And you have the radical left running around with their dog whistles. And I just came to this conclusion this morning, and I just want to run it by you. I want you to be the arbiter of my reality, of any reality at this point. We have some really smart people. I'm yet to meet someone really smart that supports. I'm like the Bill Maher's of the world, right? I mean, the guy's super smart and says these demons they're just not even natural, but they're not upset about it either. Like they just walk and talk and tell the truth and hope that, because they have to appeal to normal Democrats and say, hey, this isn't progressive. This is retarded. This is really bad. And, I know nobody really believes this. Doing the same thing by muling people along to that center ground and saying most people believe this as they start to tilt and leak themselves to a place where it destroys the American ideal. By the time you're done, you tip your head up, they've already slit your throat, and you're done. But here's the conclusion that I came to. It's not about Democrat versus Republican. It never was. It never had anything to do with Democrat versus Republican. Those words are just monikers. They're name tags. They're football teams. They're not real. Black people don't hate white people, and white people don't hate black people. And Asian people, yeah, they're still get the highest test scores. It's not a surprise to me that China has, kind of cornered the market on manufacturing and also stealing the ideas of Americans and catching up very quickly. They're relentless. I also know a lot of Chinese people, and they're pretty amazing people. I know a bunch of Mexicans. You'd be hard pressed to find someone that can pop a wheelbarrow. I don't even care if they wear a suit more than a Mexican. You just can't. I mean, the idea of being able to do agriculture or some of the hard work and work hard. Yeah, I know. Look, I was the hardest working white dude when I tried landscaping for a small period of time back in my teenage years. And unfortunately, it was easier for me to sell drugs than it was for me to do landscaping. And I didn't want to make the equivalent of $6 an hour because I couldn't get there fast enough. And I didn't have enough money to go to school and be able to work. But I was a hard worker. Everything that I've touched, man, I give it 125%, 130%. But what we're facing right now has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican or black or white or green or yellow or purple. And, dinosaurs with web feet, doesn't matter. Even transgenders. Let's leave that out for a bit. Let's not even talk about transgenderism for a bit. They're confused. Mental illness, we know it is, but they want us to accept it as real because they're mentally ill. And they use dog whistles and they use sick things to convince you to do that. Well, if you don't affirm their gender, they'll commit suicide. Now, if this is any normal environment, you'd say, wow, so if I don't call them a pink dinosaur or a unicorn, they're going to kill themselves. Well, let's get them some help. Let's convince them that they're not a unicorn. that they can't switch genders, and that this isn't some cosplay event where you're playing Roblox and trying to figure out if you can become a different block figure, or picking your own person to go out there and play Mario Brothers. That's not what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is the fundamental idea that this body that you're given is wrong. But the body is temporary, 60, 70, 80 years. Reality of it is that body disappears and your spirit goes somewhere. And you could say everything you want about the souls of people, of men, of women. You can say, oh, there is no God. Well, that's the greatest lie that's ever been told. You could say that the ideas that the Democrats possess are based on math and science. And yet you couldn't even math it or science it, which is why they built something called Common Core, which says just round up. I got $2 in my pocket. Well, round that up to 100. How much money you got in your pocket? I don't know. Somewhere around 100. It's only $2. Fundamentally, we are not dealing with Democrat versus Republican. We're dealing with team evil. And we're dealing with people who do not have an appetite to do right by the American people. They will go along to get along. And if you think this is new, it's not. It's been going on for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And people like me, we stand up. And people like me, we die. People like me and people that have stood up and taken chances. And some of these people that take chances, it's euphoric for them doing the right thing. Especially like people like Seth Rich, who were right in the middle of the Democrat machine and decided to have a point of consciousness and say, this isn't right. Only to be shot in the back multiple times walking in Washington, D.C., and to have the then mayor be the first one to show up at the hospital at 3:00 in the morning. He's not the only one. You got people who were ruled suicides that were shot in the back of the head. I don't know how math works, but that math doesn't math. You have other people that lost loved ones. You had the Secretary of State down in Georgia, I believe it was, whose son-in-law to be died in what can only be described as a fiery crash and explosion. I don't believe in coincidences. But I do believe that where we're headed right now is we're breeding a new type of evil that we've never seen before. Last night I got on Spaces, and I was invited there, tricked almost, by a guy named Jake Armstrong, tied to Tory Mars, the chaos coordinator. And he came in and he started asking questions like, oh, brother, we're praying for you. So I said, okay, I'll show up. And put down a familiar face, the Scott McMahon. I keep in mind over the last 6 years, I have no appetite for stupid people. And I have an immense ability for violence. In other words, I don't choose violence. I choose I love the Lord. I love Jesus. He's my Lord and Savior. I will tell you 100 times over 100 that everything in me that I have become has been by the blessings that God has given me. 100%. I've deserved none of it, including the children that I have, the wife that I have, the life that I have. And yet, I'm tormented by the idea that I cannot stand evil. But I always want to right the wrong. And in large part, I think President Trump is built the same way. I've also been given all these gifts where I can see things, see dead people. I'm like the Forrest Gump of business. And I've worked really hard my entire life in that regard. I have a lot of friends that are Democrats. I have a lot of friends that are Republicans. And right now, it's really hard to figure out. It's very difficult. Sorry, not hard. It's very difficult to see to the bottom of the barrel, to the bottom of the water, to see what's lurking in that puddle. Is the puddle 6 feet deep or is it 2 inches deep? You don't know. You step in it. Well, I stepped in it in 2020. I stepped right in it with both feet. And I ran towards truth. And no matter how far I ran towards truth, no matter what I did, it didn't matter. They had a solution. Their solution was just defame and slander with impunity. And I'll be honest, I helped them out. Because when you're truthful and you hate Team Evil, and you see the injustice that it's caused and the people that it's harmed, and you yourself have spent your entire life fighting tooth and nail to be able to excel as if you never, ever left. It's like you're proving something to yourself every day that you wake up. You're proving your worth to the people around you. You're proving your ability to be able to train your family, that these are the things that you have to look for in the future. You're giving and just giving as much as you possibly can to the people around you, hoping that they will just get a taste of what it is that has caused you to be successful in your life. And coming from where I came from, the chances of me getting to where I've gotten today, I was never supposed to be here. My brother died being killed by a police officer. My family was dirt poor. I don't tell you that because I want you to feel sorry for me. I tell you that for the context that no, daddy didn't give me anything. There was no daddy out there that was handing over things to me. Every opportunity that people put in front of me, I ate it. I ate those opportunities and I made it something more. You want to talk about the talents where you have the 1 talent, 5 talents, 10 talents, and you want to say that, you send them out and they use their talents or they bury their talents or they multiply their talents. Man, I'm the guy that wants to multiply it. I want everyone to win. I've never seen anything that I didn't want everyone to do well. My competition is that I want to win, not at all costs. I want people to want to come along to that dance with us. And I saw this opportunity that if we could get our society to go the right direction, those people that are in the poorest of environments, poorest of communities that faced an uphill battle and had to break all sorts of things in order to be successful, break the trends. I wanted them to have that too. But here's the reality of the new America. They don't want that for you. They want to daze and confuse because they're evil. And evil can only do one thing. It can only seek to control, to harm, to laugh at, to ridicule, to steal from, to rob blind. They can only do evil things behind a smile while innocently sitting on the side and saying, I don't know what just happened. You look at that. It must be a coincidence. And people in our government are taught very early on to lie and to play the innocent part and to use the same dog whistles because the people that defend them are all a part of this judiciary. The last piece to be rotted out by stolen elections. And that they learned a long time ago that it doesn't matter if they're wearing an R or a D. It just matters on whether or not you can put a couple of shekels in their pocket or maybe turn over and get them some concert tickets to some event. And they're willing to turn the other way. Sell out the soul of their community for a few dollars. It hardly takes any money these days. Because most of the leaders in our positions of trust and authority are dumber than rocks and have been so unimportant their entire lives and so undedicated to anything that you could manipulate them by just moving your hand with the wind. They keep telling us that it's communism. They keep trying to define it. It's communism, it's communism, it's communism. We've seen the slow erosion of what's happened in our relationship with Israel, the proxy wars, the soldiers talking at every front about the fact that we're Bibi's bitch. I don't know how I feel about that. Because by proxy, that means that we are all his bitch. Everything that we're actually facing today, everything that we see, do, touch, taste. And in the middle of all this, while we are becoming weaker than rainwater, and it's sliding towards a finish where the retards of this world will be well known. These evil people, they'll be well known because they're going to die first. They're the useful idiots that will not make it through. And if you were the World Economic Forum and you had made this 2030 pledge that we want to get rid of 80, 90%, and you said that we can all become the king of kings, we can all become gods, lowercase g, like Yuval Noah Harari did, then this all makes perfect sense. Debate the ridiculous. Get them to the place where they're fatigued. Make them attack Black Americans and replace them with Somalis who have the IQ of a grapefruit. Let's take generations of people who have sacrificed and let's replace them with Habab Jobs, Habjab Bobs, and radical leftist extremist Muslims. I didn't say Muslim. I said radical extremists or synagogue of Satan people who hide behind the moniker of being a Jew. Said, you can't criticize me because I'm Jewish. That makes you an anti-Semite. And then be sure to come up the rear and make sure that you have anti-Semitic organizations that do nothing but create dog whistles like the SPLC, who listed me in 2020 specifically as being a part of a hate group, a right-wing extremist group. But I wasn't a right-wing extremist, and I was hanging out with people who were Democrat that just didn't want Team Evil to destroy their business. That's the reality of what we face. We've simplified it, oversimplified it, but I'm going to oversimplify the oversimplification of left versus right. There is no left versus right. There is right versus wrong. There is good versus evil. And we were talking about it. Tucker was talking about it. Elon was talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. We saw it. You'd be stupid not to see it. It literally was like Freddy Krueger on steroids every day that we lived from 2020 until today. And yet the liars and thieves are on both sides of the aisle. Let me just break it down for you. Kash Patel, got out literally and said that violent crime is down 20%. The FBI is committed to you. Well, let me just tell you how much the FBI is even and correlative. The correlation between violent crime and the FBI is not just zero. It's like negative 20,000. It's a lie. Now, ICE got rid of millions of illegals that were in our country that were committing massive numbers of crimes. So crime dropped 20%. So get rid of the rest of them. And guess what? It'll probably drop by 80% more. Because all of a sudden, American communities, even the poorest among us, will be forced into a place where they'll have opportunity. Oh, that's right. We don't want opportunity. That's why they had to bring people from other countries, all the ones that can jump, swim, and run, that just came here and they just took over jobs. They were the brightest, they say. Yet they weren't. Here's the one thing they all have in common, and they're not communists. They're demons. And they all have to hide behind something. The Democrat Socialists of America, which are devil-worshipping anti-fights, people that are absolutely demonic and disgusting. They hide behind the fact that, we're Democrats. We're just Democrats. But they had to admit something. And I'm going to show you this. This is Democrat Socialist member Cliff Connolly. It says that they hate the Constitution. It doesn't really matter because, we're not doing anything to protect it. And the radical left and Team Evil, which is this milquetoast, wolf in sheep's clothing among us on the conservative side, they let it happen. They're signaling, and we need to be paying attention to this on Team Good. Play it.
Goal. So the two things that we're famous for is our commitment to a program and our hatred of the United States Constitution. And what the program does is it gives us a roadmap to revolution, and it gives us the obstacle that we finally will have to get over to have a revolution, which is the United States Constitution, the basis of the United States government. And what the minimum maximum program specifically, what that format specifically gives us is that roadmap. It gives us the minimum circumstances under which we would be able to take power and govern. and it gives us the maximum program, which is the goals that we're actually aiming for. It also clarifies democracy as both the end goal and as part of the process to get there ensures the internal party democracy that we want to see in DSA. So it really wraps up the revolutionary tradition of democracy that I think socialism and abolitionism in the United States have always been a part of, and aims it, at a future that we can live in as a human species. Because I think absent a revolutionary democratic socialist republic in North America, we may not have a livable future.
Truly demonic. We might not have a future. And he's convincing other people you're not going to have a future while telling them how to not have a future. Get away from the constructs of law, put the millstones on the chests of Americans, put more people above the line of lawlessness. By the way, if you're here illegally, you are above the law because the law states you're not allowed to be here, which means you're actually here illegally, which means you're above the law. You're living above the law. Judges have immunity. Presidents have immunity. Congressmen have immunity. DAs have immunity. They all have immunity. You start moving this line. All these bureaucracies have immunity. And the immunity, if not stated, is implied. You might be forced to resign if they catch you doing something wrong, but you're not going to prison. Well, that's reserved for Americans. The trap of taking more Americans, stealing from them what was never theirs to take. And he talks about this. He says, the obstacle socialists must get over to have a revolution. And you think this is the fringe. We haven't said anything up to this point. We've let people cut off penises and take away parental rights and do some really retarded things for Team Evil. We've stayed silent. We've said nothing. But the DNC just adopted a resolution to kill the one thing that has gotten rid of 20% of our violent crime in America. Play it.
ICE problem. The DNC just approved a resolution calling for the agency to be abolished and another calling for it to be reformed. All as President Trump doubles down on his immigration crackdown.
We must abolish ICE. It is a cruel, rogue agency.
The radical racist institution we call ICE, which must be abolished.
When ICE terrorizes Latino families and murders our neighbors in broad daylight, that is our fight.
Together, we are stronger than ICE. We will melt them in a second.
Ooh, former acting.
It's, I want you to kind of understand a few things. Of the people that were just on that stage talking about this, Jean Wu was born in China. I could walk through and each one of these people, and they were born in a different country. But they're telling you because they're foreigners that come here to invade and steal what was never theirs to take. These are foreigners. These are people who don't understand the ethos of the sacrifice that came before them. They're thieves of an ethos in a society that doesn't belong to them. And yet by stealing your voice and stealing elections and doing what happened to Regina, what happened to so many, coming forward and whistleblowing. Whistleblowers become the bad guys. Experts get put to the sideline, and entertainment journalists and bureaucrats and lawyers become the authority on whether or not we have free and fair elections. Does it even make sense? Make the math. Because it doesn't math. There's no part of it that maths. It's not like you wake up one day and say, oh, this makes perfect sense. Because it doesn't. All right. I want to show you this. This is 4 arrested in Florida in murder of a legal immigrant. All 4 in our country illegally. Jose Hernandez Bermudez, Nicaragua, Kleber Martinez, Daniel Ramirez Mato, and Russell Olivia Reyes from Honduras are here illegally. They're here illegally. And they murdered a man in cold blood that was here legally, was a legal citizen. And you have the evil out there. Let's not call them Democrats anymore. Let's not call them Republicans. Let's just call them evil. We're going to refer to them as Team Evil. Team Evil, the devil itself, is out there trying to convince you that you should leave illegals here in our country. They can live above the law with the bureaucrats and everything else. I mean, they're the ones getting them elected. They're the ones getting the ones that have immunity. They're the ones keeping them in office. They're surrounding themselves with range maggots, people that don't belong in this country. And we're supposed to sit back and just take it. And here's some more radical chatter from the Democrats. They've done everything else. They've gotten to the point where they have density, and now they want to abolish the Electoral College. Play it.
I realize you support abolishing the Electoral College. If you're saying direct election of the president and vice president.
Yeah, I've said it a number of times, and it's because in Kentucky, we will never see a candidate for president or vice president unless they're from here. Why? Because people just expect that it'll go one way or the other. It's the idea that someone would get elected not just knowing about 7 states, but having to earn votes all over the United States. I certainly think it's time.
Abolish the Electoral College. So our country has gone in the toilet. 250 years of prosperity. The last 30 years have been absolutely decimating to the American people. Decimating to the American people. And they want to fundamentally dismantle it after they decimated it. Not go back to a place where we have free and fair elections where they could solve all of this by just actually enacting things like the Save America Act. Not because, why do what's good for the American people? Why do we not look into, why did Regina not get a phone call from anyone at the FBI or the DOJ? Because they're in on it. And losers that like to, I'll call it the Indian, 3-card Monty. Because what do you get from the Indian population? You get, Blockbuster gift cards and a whole lot of fraud. Does that mean there aren't any good Indians? No, there are plenty of good Indians. There's just a lot of bad ones that steal billions of dollars from the American people by trying to convince them that, this is a real thing. You can say whatever you want. Joe, you're racist. Okay, whatever. Call me whatever you want. I'm not racist against anyone. I don't think anyone hates anyone else. But let's call a spade a spade. We have people that are in this administration that literally have worked against President Trump over and over and over again. And you want to say, okay, Joe, I'm not listening to this anymore. President Trump knows what he's doing. He's got it all under control. Q this, Q that. Q. All right, whatever. Say what you want. We're less than 90 days away from the most consequential election in the U.S. history. And it just keeps, with the temperature and the goalposts keep being moved back. And we keep saying, well, if they do it again, we're going to do this. If they do it again, we're going to march on. If we do this again, we're heading towards a civil war. We're already in it. Like the Civil War has already started. The bullets have already been flying. They've been killing us, and every time that we kill Team Evil or one of them, they have some radical leftist inside of, by the way, conservative areas that persecute that particular American for standing up and shooting a guy that frankly tried to do harm to his family. Like, how dare you get rid of Team Evil? And the family comes out and said, you shouldn't have shot him. You shouldn't have shot him. I can't believe you shot him while he came into your home and tried to rob you. We're already there. The people that they want to appease, they want to stand on, are not Americans. These people are traitors. They stand up to the illegals and these beta cucks. Let's play. This is a trans man. Yeah, go ahead and play this.
So I'm not actually complaining. I'm very happy with my current gender presentation. But oh my God, there are so many cute shirts that are just slightly too feminine that I can't wear anymore. Like, I still wear lace and stuff, I still wear sequins, I still wear pink and butterflies and everything, but sometimes a shirt is just too feminine, and there were so many shirts that were like $3 that were so good, but I couldn't see myself wearing them anymore.
What is happening here? What is happening? You ever seen The Greatest Show on Earth? You know, the woman with the beard that was singing is beautiful. I can't play it because we'll get copy struck on Facebook. But that's what it reminds me of. Greatest Show on Earth. The freaks of the circus. And we've tried to normalize this. It's not normal. And by the way, there's a whole society that doesn't even, they just get on their yachts and they get on their, and they laugh. They sit up top and they eat bonbons and do whatever they do while they look down at these retards that are basically doing the fighting for them. Demons. Demons. Nothing is sane because we embrace and we let the insane just get away with it. I want to show you this. This is the mayor of Lawrence, Massachusetts, Brian DePina, who is from the Dominican Republic, can barely speak English. Says he's not stepping down for following his arrest for fraudulently obtaining over $1.5 million in COVID relief money. He'll be forced to step down when he gets deported. Okay. People don't really understand the Dominican Republic very well. He can't speak English. And he'd say, well, that's not a requirement. This is how I tell you that Team Evil, stealing elections, gets people like this elected. These people are retarded. You know, as I go back and I think about 2010, I was in the congressional dining hall. And I was talking to a couple congressmen. And we had just got done working. We went to the National Prayer Breakfast. And Obama was speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast. And so one year I didn't have a ticket. It was 2010. True story. No? Yeah, it was 2010. And because Obama had that, I'd been there a couple of years before that too. And I didn't have a ticket to sit down inside the room. And I was really good at negotiating. I was really good. And they were checking everybody at the door. And I didn't have a ticket. Now keep in mind, this is a room that everyone has to be pre-vetted to get in the room. And, you know, I didn't think anything of it at the time. You have a president that's in there. You had a sitting, man, I think that was the year that Washington Redskins quarterback Griffin was speaking. I think it was that year. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 2009 or 10. Anyway, it happens every year. And there's an organization called the Fellowship that ran it for years and years and years. It's now been handed off to another organization. Doug Toe died. And so I'm sitting in the congressional deal. No, let me just tell you this. So anyway, I snuck in the room. Act like I'd been there before, sat down at the table, started shaking hands with people, and went about my business and listened to Obama speak. I voted for Obama in 2008. I told you this before because I wanted change. I wanted him to racially, I thought, man, he's black, white. He can just bring everybody together, kumbaya. Anybody that's left being a racist, that'll go away. It turns out that he was on the opposite train. He wanted to destroy everything he touched. He was with Team Evil. But I believed his rhetoric. Now, fast forward to this meeting that I had. This is the first time that I ever heard the saying that Joe Biden was the dumbest person in Congress and had been for like 30 years. They said he's an empty shell of a man. And they couldn't believe the fact that he was in the White House as the vice president, except for they said he's the Muppet puppet. And as I'm sitting there talking to the congressman, we had one thing we were trying to get accomplished. One thing. We were looking at a specific area that we were going into that was just in really bad shape, different country. And so we wrote this report, and I handed it over to him, and I go, here's a, you know, they would call that a bluff, bottom line up front. Here's a document that kind of goes through the entire country. Here are some of the major issues that they're facing. And by the way, this is a lie. And I proved it. Like, here's the pieces. Here's why it's a lie. And at the end of it, the congressman, the three congressmen that were sitting there with us, and their two aides, and this little dweeb that had been with this one congressman, Olympia Snowe, who wasn't who Olympia Snow up in Maine wasn't there at the meeting, but sat on one of the committees. And so this guy was attending and asking questions. And so I said, what questions do you have about what I put in front of you? Now I dumbed it down so that, even a third grader could understand it. And I had just got done reading the document. And one of the congressmen said, "Where is that country?" And I go, what are you talking about? Where is the country? Well, I keep thinking that it's it's in South America. I just can't place it. Where's that country? And I said, are you punking me? I had to say it. And he goes, well, yeah, of course. And I was like, well, where did you think it was? He laughed. And I go, you don't actually know where it is, do you? Now, these congressmen were chosen because they had a deep commitment to this particular country. The country is Sudan. It's in North Africa. It borders the Middle East. It's not in South America. And this clown show truly could not understand anything I was saying. That was in 2010, maybe 2009, maybe one of those 2 years. Now keep in mind, I walked right into a room with 3,000 people because I acted like I'd been there before. And I was like, hey, how you doing? Hey. I looked ahead and saw I was like, hey guys, you check me. Am I good? I didn't have a badge. I didn't have I had nothing. And they were like, okay, I guess he's been here before. And I just walked right through. True story. They can check the tapes. But when I had the meeting with the congressman about Sudan, and I'm like, listen, I need you to know something. Darfur is a ruse. There was no ethnic cleansing and no genocide that existed in that country at all. And they were like, wait, what? He's like, what? No genocide and ethnic cleansing. And I was like, yeah, Susan Rice is totally a liar. Went to the UN, got him indicted on, President al-Bashir indicted on war crimes, right? At genocide and ethnic cleansing, but it never happened. And I tried to explain it to this congressman. I was like, well, let me just walk through this with you. This is a guy that stood on the stage with other people touting the fact that we were going to get justice for these criminals, these tyrant leaders. But it wasn't true. It's fake. A lot of people died. Country was cut in half because of policy. I tell you that because Congress is filled with a bunch of retards. It was in 2010, and it is today. And these are not the smartest and brightest. Are there smartest and brightest? Yeah, but they get pushed out. I mean, you got a guy that literally has a degree from MIT. He's probably one of the smartest scientists you're going to be able to have out there. And do I agree with everything that Thomas Massie does? Absolutely not. I don't. And I think with some of the decisions he makes are antithetical to what he's saying he's trying to accomplish, for sure. But he's closer to the sun than others that are still there. And so I will just urge you to do a couple of things. And this is me telling you. You have to be the ones that get out there and talk about what's happening with the elections. And you got to make sure you hold people accountable. Get on every post you can and be like, yeah, but the elections are absolutely fraudulent in every way, shape, and form. There is no election that is not fraudulent. You should probably go make it this deal. Do this for me. Go do it 20 times a day, because I talk about it every day. 5 days a week, I take a break on this. Mention other whistleblowers, talk about some of the things that are out there, become knowledgeable on the things that are happening in our elections, and go and speak the truth all over the place. Because the one thing that will destroy this country the quickest, which is what we're going through right now, is fraudulent elections that don't represent the will of the people. And when the will of the people's desire or belief that they actually have a seat at the table wanes, chaos erupts and people die. That's what happens. And so you got to decide whether or not this is a country worth saving. You got to decide whether or not you're willing to speak up And if you are, you should go out there literally right now, just leave, just hit the share button at the very top of it, say, we do not have free and fair elections. We are literally in the middle of kabuki theater, and they have stolen the sovereignty of our people. Democrats aren't real. Democrats are not our enemy. Republicans are our enemy. Our enemy is Team Evil, and they're everywhere, and they're on both sides. That's what I think you should do. That's it. That's it. That's all I got for you today. And right on time, I hit it at 5:03. I want to say thank you to Regina for coming on. I want to say thank you for Stephanie Lambert for being an amazing attorney and helping me in so many ways. And Peter Tickton and David Wilson, amazing attorney. I just want to get back to a place of peace. And we're not going to have peace until we actually have a voice of the people actually heard, where we can actually reduce our taxes and stop being slaves, or we just have to embrace the new suck. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. You can go to all those places. Let me go back here and look at some of the comments you have here. By the way, Patrick, Damon, do me a favor and make it so that I can do some phone calls this week. I want to have people call in and chit chat with us. Yemi, looks like you got a lot to say. Get those comments up there. Blue Ethernet cables going to the election machines that you are voting on. Wrangler 44. Wrangler, I haven't seen you talk a little bit. Sorry for the language. I'm just pissed. It's corrupt all the way down the local dog catcher. Our systems are effed. Yep. Mod Trend says, I'm totally disgusted by the way the world is progressing. Everything we eat, drink, and breathe is contaminated. Yep, that would probably be in what I talked about before. Wonderful World didn't like the fact that I was drinking a Monster. I'm drinking a Monster. This is a Monster. I hope that's the Monster you were talking about, because I needed to have a little bit of Monster. Yeah, we see what other comments I've got in other places. Gee, Merry Christmas. Okay, a lot of comments to go through. Over there on the fun part of YouTube, the most censored out of all of it, just got one word, truth. Okay, I don't know when you said that, but I'll take it. London. Gatehoff. I don't know. Anyway, over there on YouTube, I see you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pray us out. Remember, you're the ambassadors of truth, and you don't even need to push my message or what I'm saying in order to get to the truth. You just got to be brave. You got to be courageous. And look, you're going to get attacked by people. Yes. But just know this, 95% of them are bots. They're not real. You don't believe me? I'm just telling you. It's all fake. Fake and gay. Ghey. Fake and gay. Greg Norland says, if you wanted to overthrow the U.S. by means of a color revolution, you would employ fifth-generation warfare, Cloud Piven strategy, and you would include corrupting the voting systems. The end has not yet been written, but where we stand is perilous. I agree with you. And that was so well written. Man, you're pretty good at this stuff. All right, let's go ahead and pray us out. Father God, we are so grateful for the blessings that we have and for the beautiful things that we have in our lives. We walk outside and we see the beautiful trees and we see the mountains and we have these amazing relationships. And yet we see the heaviness as well. And as we look at people, we understand where they are and where we are. We understand that we've lifted the shroud and we can see through it. And every time we look in the direction of another person, we wonder, how can you stand for what is in front of you? And yet there are so many people that act like they can't see it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to talk about it. They want to be completely oblivious to the things that are going on around them. And if I'm being honest, I would love to be in that position. I would, and all at the same time, I'm glad that I'm not. I want to see the train when the light comes on and it's coming towards us. And I want to be able to walk with my brothers and sisters, regardless of the outcome, towards truth and towards victory. So, Father, I ask you to give us the ability, the tools to stand in the middle, to stand in the gap, to do the right thing, to stand with others, but to do so but also to maintain who we are. Never become the very thing that we're fighting against. We know that we're fighting against team evil. We're fighting against evil people. We're fighting against something that we can't put your fingers on or around because it's so evil and it's so deceptive and it's so just gross that it moves with a smile. It lies with impunity. It takes from people what was never theirs to take. And in large part, we've let it happen. So, Father, forgive us for being apathetic to these evil deeds and evil people. Lead us, please, Father, into a place where we can have peace, but we can also enjoy the fruits and pass on those fruits to the next generation by really destroying team evil. We know the vengeance belongs to you, but we would love to be a part of the consequence part. So, Father, help us to be patient. Help us to have wisdom, but to operate relentlessly towards restoration, restoring you to our community, our country, and to the world. And to really just take out the head of the snake, all of it. I ask these things, Father, humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I'll see you guys later. Remember, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that stuff. You know that stuff. Just do that. Give us a 5-star review. If you're on Rumble, you need to hit the little arrow, this little button. If you're on Roku, there's a share button on it now. Just make sure you use that. And if you have any, I loved having Jesse on. So if you didn't watch the video from yesterday with Jesse, you need to go watch it. It was awesome. It was freaking awesome. He's one of my favorite people. And yeah, so people over on Pilled, it's good to see you guys. It's good to see you. Eric Allen, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you over there as well. All right. God bless you all. We'll see you soon.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever